For many of us, myself included, Star Trek was likely our first encounter with Shakespeare, even if we didn't realize it at the time. Quotes, references, and allusions to Shakespeare have been a mainstay of Star Trek ever since Dagger of the Mind, the 9th episode to air, first flickered across our television screens. But today we're going to focus on The Conscience of the King, the 13th episode to air, and the first Star Trek episode to grapple with Shakespeare in a major way, and it does so more than any other episode of the original series.
From the great bard to the great bird, familiar strains are once again heard. So hearken, noble viewers, and lend thine ear. Our Shakespearean trek doth begin here.
And we're starting right now. The Conscience of the King borrows elements from two of Shakespeare's most famous plays, Macbeth and Hamlet, using them as the backbone of its narrative structure. Even the episode's title is taken from Hamlet.
So plays the thing, and it will catch the conscience of the king.
Like all great stories, this one springs forth from people. So let's begin by introducing our cast of characters. It turns out that the Enterprise crew members correlate with characters from Hamlet, while the non-Starfleet characters, Anton and Lenore Caridian, mirror characters from Macbeth. But there was a major challenge in adapting Shakespeare's characters for Star Trek. Shakespeare famously used soliloquies and monologues to reveal his characters' inner motives and conflicts. But beyond Kirk's log entries, this narrative device isn't feasible within Star Trek's format. How then can our protagonists attain the same depth of expression? The solution was to divide the Shakespearean roles between pairs of Star Trek characters, allowing them to express themselves through their dialogue. As we'll see, each bifurcation serves a distinct purpose. So let's get started with Prince Hamlet himself, who seeks both justice and vengeance following the death of his father, King Hamlet. His inner conflict is split between Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Riley. While Kirk embodies Hamlet's pursuit of justice, Riley embodies the prince's thirst for revenge for the death of his father,
my mother,
and his mother, at the hands of Kodos. Originally, the plan was for Kodos to have killed Kirk's father, which would have provided an even stronger parallel between Kirk and Hamlet. This idea was shelved, however, to keep the possibility open for a future appearance by Kirk's father, which, sadly, never happened. But instead of abandoning that plot point, scriptwriter Barry Trivers created a new character, Robert Dakin, who eventually became Kevin Riley after Bruce Hyde was cast in the part, to carry that aspect of Hamlet's burden for Kirk. Together, Kirk and Riley epitomize Hamlet's inner conflict between the ideals of righteousness and the darker urge for revenge. Kirk's calm composure and Riley's intense emotions create a dynamic that drives the episode towards its riveting climax.
You murdered my father. You could be wrong. Murdered.
Moving on to Horatio, Hamlet's steadfast friend, the essence of this Shakespearean character is divided between Spock and McCoy, who both provide Kirk with the same guidance and caution Horatio offered the conflicted Prince Hamlet. Meanwhile, this Spock-McCoy dynamic also becomes a window into Spock's inner workings, allowing him to express his typically guarded thoughts.
It was illogical for him to bring those players aboard.
Did it ever occur to you that he simply might like the girl?
It occurred. I dismissed it.
You would.
Through this bifurcated portrayal of Horatio, the narrative gains further depth as Spock and McCoy compel Kirk to confront his own inner conflict regarding Caridian.
I'm interested in justice.
Are you? Are you sure it's not vengeance?
No, I'm not sure. I wish I was. From here on, I've got to determine whether or not Caridian is Kodos.
He is.
You sound certain.
Yeah, I am.
I wish I could be.
And then we have the ghost of King Hamlet, who sets his son, Prince Hamlet, on his course for justice and vengeance. This ghostly character is initially represented by Dr. Lighton, who is neither a member of the crew nor of Caridian's acting troupe, but who acts as a bridge between the two groups. It's Lighton's murder who sets Kirk on his quest for truth and justice, just as King Hamlet's murder initiated the course of events in Hamlet. In the original story treatment, Lighton was much older than Kirk, having been a contemporary of and assistant to Kirk's father, making his connection to King Hamlet even stronger. Lighton forces Kirk to re-examine his beliefs, again like the ghost of Hamlet's father.
He is Kodos, I'm sure of it.
The authorities closed the book on that case years ago.
Then let's reopen it.
Kodos is dead. I'm satisfied with that.
Well, I'm not.
Library computer.
Give comparative identification between actor Caridian and Governor Kodos.
Similarly, it's another doctor, Dr. McCoy, who sets Riley, our other Prince Hamlet, on his quest for vengeance.
Prevent contact with passenger who calls himself Caridian and is suspected of murdering the lieutenant's family. Riley? Captain Kirk, McCoy here.
Yes, sir.
Riley's gone. I was recording my log about Caridian and Kodos. If he overheard...
Made your point, Doctor.
Making McCoy the only character who serves the function of two different Shakespearean characters. McCoy, however, in contrast to Lighton, cautions Kirk against vengeance, reminding him that justice cannot be driven by revenge.
What if you decide he is Kodos? What then? Do you play God, carry his head through the corridors in triumph? That won't bring back the dead, Jim.
Then we have the actor Anton Caridian, who casts himself in roles that force him to act out his anguish, with each performance a reflection of his own tortured soul. He's a haunting embodiment of Shakespeare's usurping kings, Macbeth and Claudius, both on stage and off. The opening act of murder during a performance of Macbeth foreshadows Caridian's own dark past. He shares the Scottish king's ambition and the weight of his deeds. Macbeth's ambition led to regicide, as he murdered Duncan, his previous benefactor, in his sleep, while Caridian's ambition led to genocide, with the murder of over 4,000 colonists under his charge. Both men are haunted by their past, and both feel a profound sense of guilt associated with their crimes, highlighting the psychological toll of their immoral actions. And as Claudius was responsible for the death of Hamlet's father, so Caridian is responsible for the death of Riley's father. And he also usurped complete control over a kingdom. Lenore, Caridian's daughter, is a composite of Lady Macbeth and Ophelia, having been driven insane not only by her own actions, but by those of her father, Caridian. Lenore not only performs as Lady Macbeth in the opening play, but also reflects her murderous scheming. Kirk alludes to this aspect of Lenore by referring to her as Lady Macbeth not once,
And I'll talk to Lady Macbeth.
not twice,
Lady Macbeth?
but 3 times.
You were very impressive as Lady Macbeth.
Thank you.
And she's referred to as 2 other Shakespearean characters as well. McCoy refers to her as Juliet, reflecting Lenore's tragic vulnerability,
Did you get a look at that little Juliet?
while Lenore refers to herself as Cleopatra,
Cleopatra.
suggesting that she thinks of herself as a seductress. Both of these names call attention to Lenore's romantic relationship with Kirk, which is a reflection of Ophelia's romance with Hamlet. But unlike her Shakespearean counterparts, Lenore does not kill herself. Although suicide will be mentioned, it's never made clear who it was who committed suicide. Was it Lenore's mother who carried the Shakespearean aspect to its fruition? Or was it Kodos, who may have staged his own death, making it look like suicide?
There never was a positive identification of his body.
We'll be right back. Minute Trek returns.
And that brings us to the story itself. 20 years ago, during Kodos' short stint as governor of the Earth colony Tarsus IV, he seized total control and declared martial law when the food supply was destroyed by an exotic fungus. Kodos ordered half the colony's population of 8,000 executed in order that the other half might survive the impending famine. Of the 4,000 survivors, only 9, including Kirk, Riley, and Lighton, ever saw the face of the man history would come to know as Kodos the Executioner. We jump ahead 20 years to the day of a short-lived reunion between Captain James T. Kirk and Dr. Thomas Lighton, as they take in a performance of Macbeth on Planet Q. Lighton suspects that Anton Caridian, the actor playing Macbeth, is, in fact, Kodos the Executioner. Later that evening, Lighton hosts a party for the company of actors. Though convinced Kodos is long dead, Kirk attends Lighton's party, hoping to meet Caridian in person, and ends up meeting Caridian's daughter, Lenore, instead. The two hit it off and decide to take a stroll across the haunting landscape of Planet Q, where they find the body of their host, Dr. Lighton, lying motionless under the alien sky. Lighton's murder sets Kirk on a path of determining Caridian's true identity. Kirk arranges for the Shakespearean actors to take passage aboard the Enterprise.
I'll pick them up. And if there's any trouble, it'll be my responsibility.
Giving him ample time to ascertain Caridian's guilt. After he discovers that he and Kevin Riley are the last remaining eyewitnesses who could identify Kodos, Kirk orders Riley reassigned to engineering, setting him up as a potential target. Spock finds Kirk's seemingly irrational behavior disconcerting and consults Dr. McCoy. Meanwhile, Kirk grows closer to Lenore.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
Riley, all alone in engineering, calls up their rec room seeking some companionship. While Uhura serenades him, an unseen assailant makes an attempt on his life, landing him in sickbay. Convinced Riley was poisoned and that Kirk will be the next target, Spock, along with the reluctant Dr. McCoy, confronts the captain. After McCoy leaves, Kirk and Spock's continued discussion is cut short when they hear a phaser set on overload somewhere in Kirk's quarters. Kirk locates and jettisons the phaser just in time. averting catastrophe. But this finally drives Kirk to confront Caridian about being Kodos.
Are you Kodos? Do you believe that I am? I do.
A tired Caridian reluctantly reads Kodos' death decree for a voice analysis.
The revolution is successful, but survival depends on drastic measures.
Caridian later ponders how history might have viewed Kodos had fate not delivered a cruel twist in the form of a surprise supply ship.
And if the supply ships hadn't come earlier than expected, this Kodos of yours might have gone down in history as a great hero. But he didn't.
A stark reminder of how thin the line between hero and villain can be, hinged on the whims of circumstance. Meanwhile, Riley learns that Caridian might be Kodos, his parents' killer. With Dr. McCoy now acting as the herald who sets Riley on his course. Caridian's voice print matches Kodos' nearly perfectly, but Kirk is still hesitant.
I believe we have a match, Captain.
During the episode's climax, the Enterprise is transformed into a stage set for tragedy as our company of actors perform Hamlet for the crew, with Caridian now ironically playing the ghost of Hamlet's father.
I am thy father's spirit.
The performance on stage reflects the unfolding drama behind the scenes. Like Hamlet, Kevin Riley seeks vengeance for his murdered father, but Kirk persuades Riley to stand down.
Give me the weapon list. It's in order.
Caridian overhears them and realizes his past is closing in on him. Backstage, Caridian attempts to shield Lenore from his past, but is horrified when she admits to knowing his history and having eliminated 7 witnesses, planning to dispose of the last 2 after the performance. But it's here that Kirk ultimately discovers the truth. Just as Hamlet used a play within a play to determine the truth, Lenore grabs the security guard's phaser and flees on stage, intent on killing Kirk. But Caridian intercepts Lenore's phaser blast and is killed instantly, thus ending Kodos the Executioner's 20-year saga.
Will return after these messages. We now return.
Shakespearean themes and motifs are present throughout The Conscience of the King. We'll start with Shakespeare's fondness for disguises and mistaken identities, which is central to the plot of the episode, as Kodos the Executioner has been hiding in plain sight. Disguised as the actor Anton Caridian, he's been giving the performance of a lifetime, both on stage and off.
I am tired!
As with so many of Shakespeare's plays, this character's disguise is what drives the narrative, infusing it with a dramatic tension that the bard himself would have admired. The father-daughter relationship between Lenore and Caridian adds emotional depth to the story, and reflects a set of recurring motifs spanning 21 of Shakespeare's plays. Lenore's murderous behavior also reflects how, in Shakespeare's plays, fathers never seem to know what their daughters are up to.
What have you done?
What had to be done?
And, as is also the case in so many of Shakespeare's plays, Lenore's mother is conspicuously missing. In a heated exchange regarding Caridian's possible guilt, McCoy makes yet another allusion to Macbeth when he asks Kirk,
"What if you decide he is Kodos? What then? Do you play God, carry his head through the corridors in triumph?"
a chilling reference to Macbeth's own decapitation. Insanity is a powerful theme in both Hamlet and Macbeth, and is present in The Conscience of the King as well. As I pointed out earlier, Lady Macbeth and Hamlet's Ophelia serve as models for Lenore's character, but they also serve as models for her insanity as well, raising the question, is Lenore a passive victim like Ophelia? Or did her own actions contribute to her insane state like Lady Macbeth? And how much of her madness is due to discovering her father's guilt during her childhood? Then there's the specter of the supernatural. While the vengeful ghost of Hamlet's father appears to be real, Banquo's ghost in Macbeth is a manifestation of Macbeth's guilt. In The Conscience of the King, ghosts are mentioned metaphorically. First Leighton refers to Caridian as a ghost.
Then it'll be a ghost Martha and I receive in our home tonight.
Coincidentally, in Caridian's final performance, he plays the part of King Hamlet's ghost.
I am thy father's spirit.
Backstage, he mentions,
"There was a voice out of the past, haunting me,"
making Kirk and Riley a visceral echo of Macbeth's guilt-ridden hallucination of Banquo. This, in turn, prompts Lenore to make the second and final mention of ghosts in the episode.
All the ghosts are dead.
It's this blend of disguises, complex family relationships, and a hint of the supernatural that makes The Conscience of a King a compelling homage to Shakespeare's enduring legacy. Let's now turn our attention to the episode's symbolism and delve into these layers of meaning to see how they enhance the story's impact. First, we'll look into the name choices used in the episode. Tarsus IV, the name of the colony that Caridian, as TOS, once governed, has a symbolic connection to Shakespeare's play Antony and Cleopatra, as Tarsus is where the real Mark Antony and Cleopatra met, and Antony is undoubtedly where Caridian's first name, Anton, originates. Anton, like Antony, means praiseworthy, just as Kodos, a name created for the episode, is likely derived from kudos, which also means to praise. This, in fact, inspired the slogan I imagine Kodos may have used when he was running for governor of Tarsus IV. Kudos to Kodos. Caridian is itself a name crafted for the episode, similar to the Aramaic name Corida, which means untouched or innocent one, with this suffix, which means pertaining to, added to the end. So, in renaming himself Anton Caridian, Kodos retained the meaning of his original name, a declaration of self-praise, while choosing a last name that pertains to his guise of innocence. Lenore Caridian, likewise, means something like the light of innocence. She's about as innocent as the light-bearer himself, Lucifer. Once aboard the Enterprise, Kirk places Caridian and his daughter Lenore in quarters constructed from the brig set seen in Charlie X, subtly suggesting that Kirk has already placed Caridian in a type of prison cell. The quarters also contain a wall section that was last seen in Pike's quarters, which itself would become the back wall of the brig set throughout the rest of the series. This oddly shaped couch, used as the centerpiece of the room, is from Pike's Telosian cage, further suggesting that Caridian's quarters are a type of prison cell. The room also contains a crown and swords, tying Caridian's own guilt-ridden conscience to the tragic fate of Shakespearean kings like Macbeth and Claudius, both kings hopelessly stained by the blood of their crimes. Have you ever wondered about the mask Caridian uses when performing as the ghost of King Hamlet? I did some digging and couldn't find any evidence of a mask being used in any other production of Hamlet, but in Star Trek, Caridian's mask works perfectly, not only in the way that Caridian lowers the mask at the end of his speech, symbolizing that his true identity is being revealed, but I believe that there's a deeper symbolic link between the mask used for the ghost of King Hamlet and the mask that covers Dr. Lighton's disfigured face. This connection is evident when comparing Dr. Lighton's role in the episode to that of King Hamlet's ghost. Just as the ghost sets Prince Hamlet on his quest, Lighton sets Kirk, who parallels Prince Hamlet, on his quest. And so these masks act to symbolically connect Lighton with King Hamlet's ghost. And while Caridian is donning his ghost mask, there's something symbolic occurring backstage as well. When Kirk takes Riley's phaser and Riley leaves, it's almost as if the two bifurcated halves of Hamlet merge back together in Kirk. This Kirkian version of Hamlet is who ultimately confronts Caridian and Lenore.
Benetrick will return after these messages. Return to Benetrick.
Overall, The Conscience of the King references 5 Shakespearean plays: Macbeth, Hamlet, Antony and Cleopatra, Romeo and Juliet, and Julius Caesar, and also incorporated several Shakespearean themes, making The Conscience of the King a cornerstone in our exploration of Shakespeare and Star Trek. Star Trek more than suggests that the works of Shakespeare will survive long into the future.
Yes, Shakespeare first folio.
And there they will thrive.
A rose by any other name.
Captain?
A quote from a great human poet, Shakespeare.
And here's every one of Shakespeare's lines quoted in the episode, starting with the performance of Macbeth, which provides us with the series' first Shakespearean quote.
Oh, great Neptune's ocean, wash this blood clean from my hands.
Whither wilt thou lead me? Speak, I'll go no further.
Mark me.
I will.
My hour is almost come, when I to sulphurous and tormenting fires must render up myself.
Speak. I am bound to hear.
So art thou to revenge when thou shalt hear. I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night. But that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house. Thy soul, freeze thy young blood, if thou didst ever thy dear father love.
Caesar, beware the Ides of March.
Oh, proud death, what feast is toward in thine eternal cell, that thou, such a prince, at a shot so bloodily had struck, so pleased a thing, that it will catch the conscience of the king.
And there you have it. I'd like to thank my Patreon patrons for their continued support, and an extra special thanks to the Captain for requesting this video. By joining us on Patreon as a Captain, you too can request a deep dive into your favorite Star Trek topic. Thanks for watching. Until next time, live long and prosper.